Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Welcome sa isa na naman pong episode ng online series ni Inang Pamantasan kung saan ang pagkatuto ay walang hangganan. Ito ang PNU Talks. Ako nga pala si Atty. Grace Carmel Paredes Bravo, ang inyong Learning from Home Buddy sa episode na ito. Ngayong araw ay ibabahagi ko sa inyo ang naging karanasan ng aming pamilya sa gitna ng pandemya. I call this as a story of love when COVID hit home. I-comment ang inyong mga katanungan at kuro-kuro tungkol sa episode natin at huwag niyong kalimutang i-like at i-share ang episode na ito. I would like to start my story on June 5, 2021, which was a day after my birthday. Yung araw din na yon was exactly a month before the birthday of my dad. My dad is Atty. Severino Paredes Jr. He is 76 years old and is residing in San Francisco, Agusan del Sur. This is where the Paredes home is. Noong araw na yon, my dad noticed that his sense of smell had diminished. He thought that it was due to his allergic rhinitis. However, on June 6, 2021, he noticed that his sense of smell was completely lost and he started to have a fever. Of course, we were worried because we knew that these were COVID symptoms. We asked our mom to stay away from our dad, pero hindi po siya pumayag because she wanted to serve our dad. She wanted to personally monitor his blood pressure, his temperature, and his oxygen saturation level. She also provided Daddy the needed medicines. On June 7, 2021, my brother Dino had decided to bring Daddy to the laboratory for antigen testing. The result came out as positive. So, Daddy was immediately isolated in our family room and Mommy was instructed to stay inside her own room. Only Dino had access to the family room. Dino said that Daddy fell down on the floor when he came out from the CR and since then, hindi na po siya makagalaw. And he had a fever, he had cough, he had colds, and hindi po nakakagalaw. So our first reaction was to bring Daddy to the hospital. However, the grim reality that all hospitals were full that time hit us so hard. The DOP Memorial Hospital was full. The San Francisco Doctors Hospital didn't have a COVID ward yet, and its emergency room was also full. So we asked family and friends to help Daddy to be enlisted in the waiting lists of hospitals in Butuan City, Tagum City, and in Davao City. Since we didn't find any hospitals, we asked Dr. Barriga to personally check Daddy at home. We were so happy because she readily agreed to check Daddy at home. And she prescribed him medicines and she instructed a nurse, our friend Gila Tan, to put IV on Daddy. Noong araw na yon, the company of my husband, Platinum Group Metals Corporation, also sent its ambulance from Surigao City, from Surigao to Agusan del Sur. Of course, the driver and the nurse were isolated in a building. And ang mahirap lang, kahit na may available na ambulance na magagamit, walang hospital na mapapasukan. And so we didn't have any choice but to manage Daddy at home. The next thing that we did was create a chat group of our support group. That support group was composed of my siblings, ako, my husband, and our friends in San Francisco. We had chosen friends na isama sa support group yung mga makakatulong sa amin in coming up with decisions, and those who could help us prepare and secure the things that were needed by Daddy at nung mga tao na naka-quarantine. The presence of the support group helped us a lot. Kasi sa loob, it was Dino who managed Daddy. He gave his medicines. Siya ang nag-a-adjust ng IV, nagmo-monitor ng IV, nag-monitor ng oxygen support, nag-change ng diaper because our dad could no longer move, and all other things were done by Dino. So the support group served as an assistance to Dino kasi kung kailangan niya ng medicine or anything for Daddy, he would just send a message to the support group. So for example, when Dr. Bariga prescribed medicines to Daddy, Dino only had to upload the prescription dun sa support group namin. And meron kaming treasurer, and pag-upload ng prescription, bibili na yon ng in-charge namin, and then mag-a-advise siya na na-deliver na sa bahay. When Dino requested for diaper of Daddy, magsisend lang siya ng message sa support group, and bibili na yun kaagad at ihatid sa bahay. So for example, another example, when magsasabi si Dino na ang oxygen content malapit na maubos, so whoever was available, siya na ang magpaparefill ng oxygen tank. Good thing, when it happened, 2 weeks before it happened, my brother John, who's also a PNU alumnus, bought 2 oxygen tanks, 2 regulators, and 2 cannula para sa parents namin na nasa probinsya. And sa ngayon, medyo mahirap na bumili ng oxygen tank for emergency purposes kasi mas limited na ang supply. So, when we managed Daddy at home, hindi kami nahirapan kasi may standby oxygen tanks na nagamit niya talaga kasi bumaba ang kanyang oxygen level. So, while Dino was managing Daddy at home, we continued to monitor the status of the reservations in the hospitals in Butuan City, Tagum City, and in Davao City. Ang sa Butuan City, masyadong mahaba pa ang pila. Sa Tagum City, we never had the chance to inquire kung pang-ilan si Daddy sa list. And ang sa Davao City, by Tuesday, June 8, we were informed na pangatlo na siya sa list. And so, we were focused on the Davao Hospital kasi ang medyo mabilis na ang takbo ng admissions. One of our friends in Davao City, pumunta siya sa hospital to inform the admissions na ang patient would be coming from Agusan del Sur. Tapos nag-i-inquire din siya kung kailan possible na ma-admit ang patient. Kasi aalisin namin sa Agusan del Sur si Daddy kung may vacant room na for him at habang dinidisinfect ang vacant room na yon. So by Tuesday, June 8, may pumasok na ang number 1 sa listahan. And we were told na ang patient number 2 pwedeng maipasok kinagabihan or kinaumagahan ng June 9 or Wednesday. Since that was the status of the reservation sa Davao City Hospital, we had decided to cancel the name of Daddy dun sa waiting list ng Butuan City Hospital. Sabi ng friend ko, ni Jam Apaw, siya ang tumulong sa amin na masama sa waitlist si Daddy sa Butuan Doctor. Sabi niya, Grace, i-cancel na ba natin ang name ng Daddy mo sa waitlist? And I said yes, kasi makakapasok na siya sa Davao City Hospital. So, na-cancel na ang Butuan City, ang name niya sa Butuan City waitlist. And nung Leo Banasi, who's part of our support group and who helped us na masama sa waitlist ng Tagum City Hospital, si Daddy, also asked me nung Wednesday night kung ipapakancel na rin namin ang pangalan ni Daddy sa waitlist sa Tagum Hospital. And I said, yes, we will have it canceled. And ako na ang magpapakancel nun. And so, at about 7 p.m. on Wednesday, June 9, I called up the number of Tagum City Doctors Hospital and I asked for the cancellation of my dad's name dun sa waitlist. The call was short but it was so clear. I asked for the cancellation kasi makakapasok na kami sa hospital sa Davao and the lady who answered my call said mas mabuti para mas mabuti na nag-inform kami kaagad para na maka-accept na sila ng ibang pasyente. And so we were just waiting kung kailan mag-a-advise na pwede nang na pwede nang umalis ng abusan si Daddy for admission to the Davao City Hospital. June 9, Wednesday, I slept early. I slept at about 9 p.m. and I don't know why I wasn't able to get the calls and texts of Dr. Bariga and my brother Dino and sister Chai. I don't know why I wasn't awakened by the notification, by the ringing, because pag may emergency, I made sure na dapat naka-full volume ang ringer, ang notification, kasi kailangan kong makuha kaagad kung ano man yung mga messages. And so, I woke up at about 4 a.m., June 10 na, and dun ko lang nakita ang missed calls, ang text message informing me that the hospital in Davao City declined the admission of my dad because he was from Agusan del Sur, na hindi daw pwedeng mag-accept ng patients coming outside of Davao City. Of course, we were really sad when we learned about that. Kasi si Daddy that time, he was really weak and hindi siya nakakagalaw na talaga, nanghihina na siya. Initially, nung pagka-start talaga, we also explored the possibility of airlifting him to Manila. But we still exhausted all effort to find a hospital in Mindanao kasi alam namin kung gaano ka-stressful ang air travel para sa isang pasyente na mahina na ang kalagayan. But I'm happy kasi when we explored that possibility, our co-parent at the Ateneo Junior High School, Dr. Richard Olalia, immediately issued an acceptance note na pag nag-decide kami na dadalhin si Daddy sa hospital, sa Manila, ay pwede siyang ma-accept sa Cardinal Santos Hospital. So, when Daddy was declined by the Davao City Hospital, hindi na kami nakipag-argue even if we have a house in Davao kasi alam ng hospital that the patient would be coming from Agusan del Sur. So, I never bothered to question anymore. And so, ang plan ko is, ano ang next step namin? And so, I had decided to go back to our original plan of airlifting Daddy to Manila kasi nangihina na siya. Ako, personally, kung pwedeng hindi dalhin sa Manila, ayaw kong dalhin siya sa Manila because I didn't want to take Daddy away from my mom because hindi natin alam kung anong mangyayari. Nung nag-explore nga kami ng possible airlifting, ang pinag-usapan namin sa support group, anong gagawin natin kay Mami? Masasakayin din ba sa plane or iwanan lang siya dun sa abusan? And may nag-suggest na kailangan isama na para kung ano man ang mangyari kay Daddy, nandun si mommy. But that time, my mom wasn't tested yet kasi we had to wait for several days bago sila i-test for COVID. So, ang presumption that she's still negative. And when I asked my friend to check private planes na pwedeng mag-accept ng COVID patients. It was, our friend was Charmaine Oleira. She helped us sa pag-follow up dun sa nag-decline ng hospital. And now we asked for her help in trying to find private company na pwedeng bumayag na mag-transport ng COVID positive patient. At about 5:30 a.m. noong June 10, nung Leo Banasi, when he read the message dun sa support group na na-decline si Daddy sa Davao Hospital, she asked me to call again the Tagum Doctors Hospital. I said, I already canceled the reservation the night before. Nung nag-usap kami ni Nong Leo, sabi niya na pwedeng ipa-cancel na. And I said yes. And of course, as I said earlier, I had a short but clear conversation with a lady dun sa Tagum Doctors Hospital. Nong Leo encouraged me to call the hospital again kasi baka may nabakante dun sa interval between may cancellation and sa oras na yon na 5:30 a.m. And so, I called the hospital. And then, a doctor, the resident doctor, received my call. And sinabi ko kay doctor, Doc, I canceled the night before because we thought na i-accept ang daddy namin sa Davao City Hospital. And then the doctor said, what's the name of your dad? I said, his name is Carmel Bravo-Paredes Jr. And I was surprised kasi sinabi ng doctor, kagabi pa kami naghihintay sa daddy mo and may room na siya na ready dito. And wala kaming na-receive na cancellation from you. I was really surprised and I even experienced goosebumps when I heard the advice of the doctor. I asked him several times kung sigurado ka ba, Doc, na may available na room for my dad? Ang sigurado ka ba na hindi na cancel ang reservation namin? And he said na wala kaming na-receive na cancellation. So, sabi niya, you can bring your dad now. And sabi niya, ay hindi pala, huwag na kayo magmadali kasi nandyan naman ang room na niya. So pakainin mo muna siya ng breakfast and kung gusto mong masigurado na ang room, you may send somebody to pay for the down payment. So umalis po kaagad si Nong Leo Banasig at si Tata Lagas para magbayad ng down payment sa Tagum Doctors Hospital. And then we had difficulty in bringing down daddy kasi he's heavily built and dun siya galing sa second floor namin. And so we asked for the help of Tina Madrus and the MDRRMO of San Francisco. We asked for their help para maibaba si daddy. So, June 10, around 10 a.m., my dad was already ready for transport to Tagum City Doctors Hospital. And walang makakasama kay daddy sa amin kasi si Dino was on quarantine and my brother John also started to experience symptoms of COVID. He also experienced, he had cough, he had sore throat, and he had fever. So that time, though he wasn't exposed to anybody in the house, he exhibited exactly the same symptoms as my dad. So takot kami lahat kasi si Dino, highly exposed kay Daddy, nag-change ng diaper without using any gloves. Si Mommy was also exposed to Daddy kasi no, nagka-symptoms na hindi pa rin siya lumayo kay Daddy. And si John was separate from them, ganun din ang symptoms. So nagkakasabay-sabay lahat. And ang ginawa ko, I asked my friend, Ivy Ladera Cinco. She's our neighbor, she's my best friend, and she's my classmate din sa PNU. I'm proud to say that Ivy is also a PNU graduate. I asked her, Ives, pwede ba si Sila, ang anak mo, who's a registered nurse, to accompany Daddy to the hospital? And without batting an eyelash, she readily agreed. And si Sila, ganun din, nag-agree kaagad. I was so touched because hindi sila nagdalawang isip in extending help to us. And so we provided Sila the necessary PPE because she would be staying the whole time with Daddy inside the hospital room. And so sumama siya sa ambulance, and as a registered nurse, she said na it's her first time na sumakay sa ambulance, and it's her first time to work as a nurse. And Sila is actually preparing her application for a work abroad. And we were so happy. And may mga instructions ako kay Sila. I said, lang ang itanong mo sa hospital na i-handle si Daddy ng infectious disease specialist na ito kasi ito daw ang magaling sa Davao City. And lang itanong mo sa doctor kung meron silang remdesivir. That time, ang alam ko na antiviral drug na talagang hinahanap ng mga nagka-COVID was remdesivir. And I was surprised kasi ang sabi ni Sila, Tita, ang doctor po na sinabi ninyo, siya po mismo ang mag-handle kay Tatay Umban. And ang sabi po ninyo na remdesivir, meron po silang enough supply. So, I consider that as a very good development. Kasi ang nangyari before that, may mga friends kami na may family members na nagka-COVID, kung saan-saan sila naghanap ng remdesivir. Kahit ako, nung pagka-start ng condition ni Daddy, I even asked a friend na kung pwede tulungan niya ako maghanap ng remdesivir if we couldn't find one. So, I was so happy with the advice na may sufficient supply sila of remdesivir. So, hearing that, pinaubayan na lang po namin sa Diyos kung anong mangyayari. Kasi ang ni-request namin na doctor nandoon, ang kailangan namin na medicine nandoon din. And I felt that everything fell into place. So, when Daddy was admitted, naka-high flow oxygen support na kaagad siya. And si Daddy, because he was heavily built, nahihirapan si Sila, our nurse, sa pagpapatayo sa kanya, sa pagpapaupo sa kanya, because he was so heavy. The doctor advised us na dapat hindi siya nakahiga palagi si Daddy, and kung pwede, naka-prone position siya. And dapat nakaupo, dapat kung kaya niyang tumayo. Pero hindi po yun nagagawa ni Daddy because hindi po siya kaya ni Sila. And so we had decided to get someone who could assist Sila sa pagpapatayo or pagpapaupo ni Daddy. So we were looking for a caregiver or a nurse, at nahirapan po kaming maghanap because of the condition of Daddy, because he was COVID positive. So sa paghahanap namin, I was surprised because our childhood friend, na parang kapatid na po namin, kusa siya nag-volunteer na siya ang magbabantay kay Daddy sa hospital kasama si Sila. His name is Neil Hildo. We grew up together. Ang papa niya nasa amin. And he had to take a leave from his work. He's connected with the water district. And nagsabi siya na siya ang mag-aalaga kay Daddy. So when we immediately asked Neil to undergo RT-PCR test and everything went smoothly. So nakapunta kaagad si Neil sa Tagum and nung nandun na siya, napapaupo na si Daddy, napapatayo sa bed kasi it's necessary daw para mag-expand ang lungs and makakatulong dun sa pasyente na may pneumonia. So, malaking tulong na nandun na si Neil kasi ang laki ng improvement ni Daddy. So, silang dalawa ni Sila, tinatap nila ang likod and na-expel na ang phlegm. So, because of the big improvement of Daddy, si Daddy naman gusto na kaagad na labas sa hospital. Ang main concern niya that time was the giving of ayuda to people na nahihirapan because of the pandemic. We told our dad na huwag mo nang isipin muna ang ayuda and you just have to focus on your recovery. Actually, 2020 pa, nagbigay na ng ayuda si Daddy, konting, nagbigay siya ng mga rice na may canned goods. Medyo limited ang resources ni Daddy but he was able to give mga 150 packs, 100 packs of goods. So, his brothers sa Knights of Columbus helped him in distributing the goods. So, ina-identify nila beforehand, basta ang instruction ni Daddy kung sino yung nahihirapan talaga, yun yung priority sa list. And so, nung nasa hospital siya, yun pa rin ang iniisip niya kung kailan siya magbibigay ng ayuda ulit. And so, we told our dad, huwag mo isipin ang ayuda. So, you can just focus on your recovery. So, even if sinabihan na namin siya, yun pa rin, nagbibigay pa rin siya ng instructions kung anong gagawin para i-prepare ang ayuda. And on June 20, Daddy was finally released from the hospital. It was Father's Day. So, we were so happy na release na siya. And they had us, kahit may distancing pa, we were happy that he was able to celebrate Father's Day with my two brothers, Dino and John. And by the way, among the housemates of my dad, we were expecting na si Dino and Mommy would be COVID positive too. We were happy na negative sila pareho. And there were only two housemates na nag-positive. And asymptomatic naman silang dalawa, yun yung positive. And I would just like to mention that when this happened to Daddy, he already received one dose of AstraZeneca vaccine. This is the reason why I encourage everyone to be vaccinated and to make sure na makuha talaga ang full dose ng vaccine. Sa part ng dad ko, it's a big advantage na nakakuha na siya ng first dose of the vaccine. What more if nag-full dose pa siya. So, he was able to resist COVID. Hindi ganun, kahit nanghihina na siya, bumaba ang oxygen niya, na he was able to survive COVID. And we attribute that to the first dose of vaccine that he received. And if you, I'm not a doctor, but I'm encouraging everyone to have the vaccine. And if you have doubts, of course, you can talk to any doctor for advice. And we had so many realizations when it happened to us. Ang naisip ko, walang imposible sa prayers. And malaki ang tulong ng mga kaibigan sa mga panahon na may hinaharap kayo na problema. And naiisip ko na dahil sa kabaitan ni Daddy sa ibang tao, kung siya ay nangangailangan, walang pag-aalinlangan na tumulong ang mga kaibigan niya. Si Ivy, si Sila, they never had second thoughts. Si Neil never had second thoughts about helping Daddy kahit na delikado yung situation because they will be spending time with Daddy for 20 days. They stayed for 10 days sa hospital, and after that, they stayed for another 10 days sa bahay namin. And they were isolated before they underwent RT-PCR swab. Another realization was that we need to establish a system in case of emergency na kung may mangyari na ganito, may ready tayo na sistema. And ang isang advice ko, try your best to be a support group, to be part of a support group ng isang kaibigan na nangangailangan ng tulong. Ang support group namin na na-establish sa time ni Daddy, this group also served to support my auntie who's also a PNU graduate and her husband when they also had COVID. Unfortunately, my uncle passed away and my auntie survived the crisis. But we were able to show to our auntie na kung ano yung pwede namin tulong sa kanya nung nahihirapan siya sa situation nila. And we were happy na sabi niya gumaan ang pakiramdam nila when they were experiencing that problem in their family. So I encourage everyone to support any friend, any family in need, and kung ano yung may mga pinagdadaanan sa buhay. Malaking tulong talaga. And we should not forget that everything that we do will never be put to waste kasi hindi yun makakalimutan ng mga tao, and kung ikaw ang nangangailangan, handa din silang tumulong sa iyo. So, yun po ang naging experience namin ng aming pamilya nang nagkaroon ng COVID ang aking daddy. And I'm hoping that you learn something from our experience. Sa muli, ako po si Atty. Grace Carmel Paredes Bravo, and ito ang PNU Talks.